Hello, everyone. Welcome back, kinda. Hopefully you had a nice spring break. Hopefully you weren't cooped up inside the entire time. Hopefully you got to do some fun things of some kind. We're going to be starting our new material today. So you can see we're going to be jumping into Chapter 12, Data and Statistics. We're going to put a pause on our simplifying radicals stuff. We'll be coming back to that, but we thought it might be a little bit easier to jump into this material first to get us used to the e-learning things. Hopefully you'll find this material may be a little bit more straightforward. Maybe it'll feel a little bit more familiar. So we're hoping that this goes a little bit better here. At this point, hopefully you've seen that the slides are available to you. Maybe you printed them out. If you didn't, you might want a piece of paper to write some things down, copy some notes down. The act of writing these things is very important. Just listening might not get you everything that you need this entire time that we're doing e-learning. So get in the habit of getting to take some notes along with the video. So whether it's on the printed out slides or a blank sheet of paper or something, hopefully you have that ready to go. So we're going to be jumping into 12.2 today, frequency tables and histograms. So I'm going to jump into it. Frequency tables and histograms. We're going to start with some vocabulary. Our first vocab word is going to be frequency. Frequency is the number of data values in an interval. The interval word right here, that is referring to what you see in this age column. So we got some windows of data values, 0 to 9, 10 to 19. Those are our intervals. And what frequency represents, so what this number over here on the right side represents, is how many data points lie in that interval. I'll explain that a little bit more in just a moment. Frequency table is kind of this whole thing. So it groups a set of values into intervals and shows the frequency for each interval. So we can see that for the interval 0 to 9, there were 7. For the range 10 to 19, there were 5 data points. For 20 to 29, there were 4 data points, so on and so forth. Looking a little bit more closely at the intervals, a couple things that you should notice. First of all, they don't overlap. The first interval goes from 0 to 9, and then it jumps to 10 to 19, and then 20 to 29. There's no part that kind of lies on top of each other. It's not 0 to 9 and 5 to 15. They're separate from each other. There are no gaps. We go from 9 straight to 10. Since we're talking about age and we go from one number to the next, there's no gaps. So 9 to 10, 19 to 20, 29 to 30. All the numbers in between are in those intervals. There's no gaps, so there's no missing values. And finally, if you look at all these intervals, 0 to 9, 50 to 59, they're all the same size. Hopefully it's kind of easy to tell with these numbers since these only change by the tens. But basically, our intervals don't overlap, no gaps, equal size. So for this data set, it looks like we got 5 data points for ages 10 to 19. So what would that look like? Maybe it's a 13-year-old, 2 14-year-olds, a 17-year-old, and a 19-year-old. This frequency number doesn't tell you what the values of the data are, but it does tell you how many are in this group. So for 10 to 19-year-olds, we have 5 of them. We don't know exactly how old they are, but we know they have 5 of them. Our next slide deals with the histogram. This over here is our histogram. It's a graph that displays the data from a frequency table. So if we were to look at a frequency table and a histogram side by side, we would hopefully see that they show the same things. Now, hopefully you have that slide in front of you, or if not, take a look back at the previous slide. This frequency, or that frequency, frequency table is represented by this histogram. There's one bar for every interval, so there's our 0 to 9, or 10 to 19, or 20 to 29, or 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59. And the height of the bar shows the frequency. So there's our 7 ages 0 to 9. There's our 5 ages 10 to 19, so on and so forth. Please notice that there are no gaps between the bars. They're all touching each other. And all of the bars of the histogram have the same width. So they're the same distance across. We don't have this one down here, I guess at 50 to 59. It's not like it's shown by just this small bar right there. It's the whole thing. They have the same sizes. And that is our histogram. Now it's come to our slide where we're going to actually make our frequency table. So if you printed out the slides, you see the answer, but hopefully you'll take a look at this screen with our blank frequency table. And you see this set of data values, 81, 70, 73, so on and so forth. My first piece of advice is going to be reorder your data points. I normally like to go small to big, but that is, up to you on what your preference is. I'm actually going to pause for a moment and let you reorganize these. I'll show you me looking through this first one. I see 60, and I like to cross them out as I go so I don't forget any. And I see, what does it look like? 65. I'm going to pause here for a moment. You're going to finish up rewriting these in order from small to large, come back, see what you got, and then we'll talk about how to put all this into the frequency diagram or frequency table. All right, I've finally got my list done. Hopefully your list looks about the same. I guess I forgot to cross off my 91 and 94. When thinking about intervals, it's good to think about how long your data points reach from. So we go from 60 to 94. As I look at these and I'm thinking, got some 60s, 70s, 80s, a couple 90s, a good interval might be 60 to 69, 70 to 79. And as you'll see, that is what we used. Let me erase that mark that I put there. You could have used other intervals. There's nothing stopping you from using other intervals. However, that generally works. Could have broken it up more, but right now, we had 4 spots, so this would be a good set of intervals. No overlapping, no gaps, same size. Now frequency, hopefully this makes sense. We're just going to count for the first part the values from 60 to 69. So we got 60, 65, 66, 67, not 66, 68. Looks like there's 4 in total. So that means, come on. That we see our 4, and then I see the other answers have popped up, but for 70 and 79, we got 70, 73, 73, 75, 77, 77, and 79. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's just counting and kind of putting them into bins. That's what a frequency table kind of feels like to me. Here on the next slide, we're going to use our frequency table to create a histogram. Now the histogram, we're going to want to see a couple things. We're going to want to see a label down here on what we call the x-axis. That's going to be our intervals. So in this case, it's going to say scores. Over on the y-axis, that's going to be where we put our frequency. So we're going to label frequency over here. For our intervals, we're going to, again, use those intervals. So 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99. When we draw our bars, there's going to be no gaps. They're going to reach as tall as the amount of frequency. So if you see these 4 gray lines, since we go up to 7, maybe a good idea to draw some numbers here for these lines would be 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, because we could reach up to 4 for the first bar, 7, which would be about halfway for our second bar, 6 up here for our third bar, and 2 down here for our fourth bar. So taking a look at everything, there are our labels. There are our marks over there on the y-axis. There's our interval, and it goes up to 4 for the first bar. There's 7 for our 70 to 79 interval. 6, and then 2 for our last two intervals. So we got our labels, we got our numbers on the x and y axes, our intervals and our frequencies, our bars, same width, reaching up to their heights of the frequencies. Now, looking at these last two slides, we're just going to be looking for mistakes in the histograms and what those mistakes are. So if you haven't already taken a look, take a moment before you moving on, pause the video and think to yourself, what mistake am I looking for? So I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to pause and you're going to think about it before I tell you. There's a problem. If you look at all of our intervals, they have the same length, 0 to 5, 10 to 15, 20 to 25, 30 to 35. That's good. There's a problem. There are gaps. Where's 6? Where's 7? 5 doesn't connect with 10. So while they do not overlap, we're missing values in this, and that's not how we make our frequency tables. So there's our problem on this first slide. Again, hopefully you can take a look at this for a moment and see what's going on. I'm going to start with the good table this time. If we look over at the right table, interval 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7. They all have the same length. They do not overlap, and we had 0, 1, 2, 3. There's no jumps. There's no missing values. Over here on the left, there's a problem again with our intervals. Now, starting from the bottom, 41 to 45, 36 to 40, 31 to 35, all these three are good. There's no problems there, but then we look at this first one. If we wanted to fix this one to make it right, we would have to change that 0. The length of that first interval is a lot bigger than the others. We would have to actually change it. So what would that be? 26 if we wanted that to be a correct frequency table. At this point, you've got a quick Google form that you're going to fill out for me with a couple questions you're going to answer and any questions that you have. We'll have a little bit of more work and practice here at the end of the week, but for today, all that you need to be able to make sure you understand is, can you identify a frequency table? Can you make a frequency table? Can you identify a histogram? Can you make a histogram from a frequency table and know all those rules? So I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you leave them in the Google form so I can get back to you on those, and have a great rest of your day.